Welcome back to our devotional video for today. Today we are rounding out the 10 commandments with the 10th commandment. You should not covet your neighbor's wife or maidservant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Very relevant stuff for today, right? Not wanting to covet after our neighbor's donkey or maidservant. No? No? Okay. Yeah. So this commandment is one of the commandments that is important to kind of think about it differently, just based on the language. And when I say think of it differently, I mean not taking the literal words that are said and directly applying it, but thinking about what is this commandment saying? Because as Jesus shows us, somebody comes to him, or people come to him, and Jesus says, you have heard it said that you shall not murder, but I say, if you've even hated your brother in your heart, you've committed murder. Or you've heard it said, you shall not commit adultery, but I say to you, if you even look lustfully at a woman, you have committed adultery with her in your heart. And so these 10 commandments, what we are wanting to see here is the root of what God is saying in each of the commandments. And so it's not like, well, my neighbor isn't married, doesn't have maidservants or manservants, and doesn't have any animals, so I'm good. It's not what is being said here. Really, there's kind of a few things that are going on here. The first is having contentment with the things that God has given us, because it says you shall not covet. Covet is to long for something that someone else has or that's not yours, and to where it becomes a point where you try to do what you can to get it. And you might even add at the end of that sentence, by any means necessary. So when you covet, you're going to do what you can, not necessarily steal it, because there is some difference between the 7th commandment, you shall not steal, and the 9th and 10th commandment. But coveting, and what this commandment is talking about, is there's a deep desire that you're going to try to do whatever you can to get it without stealing it necessarily. What that can look like is, well, your neighbor's got in a fight, and his wife comes to you wanting to talk about your problems, and instead of directing her to, talk to somebody who's a professional or directing her back to her husband, you talk to her and you try to be a comfort for her, and you try to entice her to take interest in you instead of being faithful to her husband. It's about that line up until you're actually taking something, right? What these 9 and 10 commandments are talking about is coveting, where it's like, I'm not going to take this per se, but I'm going to do what I can to obtain it. I'm not going to take it, but I'm going to try to drive a wedge. I'm going to try to get my neighbor's wife, or people who work for my neighbor, or whatever. I'm going to try to get them to come over to me. But hey, if they come over, it was all their idea. I did not force their hand. I did not take anything from my neighbor. I can't help it where they want to go. And so that's kind of the heart of this commandment, is doing it dishonestly, where we are trying to drive a wedge and obtain the possessions of our neighbors. In this case, the spouse or the animals or the workers or whatever the case may be. And Luther says in this commandment that we should encourage those people, those in the care of our neighbor, to stay and do their duty. So it's not just enough to not try to entice them or make them come to us by kind of coercing them, but we also should encourage them. We should encourage them to stay and to work where God has put them. And we should try to build up our neighbor. And so this commandment at face value might not seem like it has a lot of meaning for us, but when we dig deeper, when we look and see what these commandments 9 and 10 are really getting at, they have a deeper meaning, and they have application that I think still applies to most of us, if not all of us, still today. And so I pray that these reflections on the Ten Commandments have been beneficial for you, and that you have a great rest of your day.